Okay, perfect. So, hello everybody. Thanks for joining in. I know it's Thursday, it's the weekend, and it's the first day in UAE where there are no limits on timing. So everybody's waiting to go out and party, I guess, tonight. So thanks for taking the time to join us today. And it's reminiscent of our cozy discussions in Be an Icon among friends and colleagues that we've seen. So thanks for coming back to our webinars, and thanks for your feedback, and la tawasulkun all the time with us. So very happy, very excited to have a dear friend, somebody that I look up to and respect a lot, Mohammad Al Shouli, join us today and lend his experience and his insights today with us on basically financing a life which we thought we desired. And COVID opened up our eyes to it. So today we're gonna have a very candid and a heart-to-heart conversation with Mohammad. And it's gonna be, sorry, I'm gonna mute everyone. And I'm gonna ask Mohammad to unmute himself. So, everybody knows Mohammad. Mohammad is the Executive Vice President at Mashriq. He's a veteran banker and a veteran at Mashriq in specific. Over 20 years of experience in contracting finance, commercial banking, large corporates, and has spearheaded the bank's operations in Abu Dhabi. He's currently heading the contracting finance division and the Japan desk, which covers contractors from Europe, GCC, Asia, and North Africa. So if I want to list all of Mohammad's background and achievements, I'm going to take up most of the webinars today. But needless to say that Mohammad is one of the symbols of success. He's very well known in the overall banking industry and across industries as well. And comes to it from banking, contracting, finance, all the stereotypes, all the rigids, all the emblems of the banking and how things should be. Today we're gonna take a different angle in our conversation, Mohammad, if you allow me, to talk about your insights about this crisis, what the learnings are, how it's affected us, how are we surviving it, are we gonna survive it, and going forward, what will happen with us. So thanks again for joining us. And let me start by asking you about this topic that you have selected, a topic that became very controversial with many of the people that tried to register for our webinar today, and who had actually their computers catch it as a possible dangerous topic because it's talking about financing a life that we don't desire. Have we been so blindsided, running after a life that we desire, and now we find out we don't desire it? I mean, what is this topic all about?
Alma, thank you very much for having me here. It's always
Mohammad, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Yes.
I can't hear you.
We can hear you, Salma. We can hear it. It's just you who can't hear it.
You're not on mute, but I can't hear you. Can we try again?
Sure. Is mute. Can you hear me now, Salma?
Hello? Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can.
But we can't. Can anybody hear Mohammed?
I think everybody, they can hear me, I think.
Yes, we can hear him, Salma.
Okay. I think there's something wrong with the connection somewhere. I hope that well, I'm gonna say good things about Salma while she's not hearing us. So she's a great friend and an amazing professional. I have been working with her for a very long time on the professional level, also on a personal level. So thank you, Salma, for having me here. The topic is definitely a topic that has been on our minds, all of us, in so many different ways. Having gone through a crisis like Corona, the pandemic that we are in today, it just caught us by surprise, and it just something that we never thought that, or we never planned for. However, it made us, take a stock of how we have been living this life and why are we doing what we're doing. So I would say that yes, were we happy with what we were doing? Are we satisfied with the life that we had prior to COVID? Is there anything that COVID had made us start thinking about? These are all topics that all of us have thought about and contemplated, especially during the quarantine time. So I'll be happy to touch upon my personal experience on the topics that came about and the ones that I've contemplated over the past 3 months.
Fantastic. So as bankers, we pretty much have a pretty clear definition of success. We grew up with, being groomed in the banking industry or any other industry of what it takes to move between the different grades, performance, bonuses, there's a certain look that we have to look, a certain way that we have to dress, certain way that we have to conduct ourselves. This whole model of what makes us successful and our aspirations in life, running after, the promotions, getting to the next level, making it, getting the best cars, getting, the set of cufflinks, the recognitions, being in the chairman's circle, what have you, let's unpeel this definition of success before and after COVID.
So I can split the topic and the people into two categories. Ones who had an insight way ahead of everyone else, and they've decided to lead a life that was more satisfying to them, to their personal needs, to their to their own desires and definitions of success. And there are the plenty of us who had adopted the mold of the corporate life. We were living in the fast lane. This is what success is. This is how we should measure up to people around us, the society that we are in, and this is how we get defined into this society. Now, prior to COVID, as let's say, if you are in the professional sphere, not running your own business or entrepreneur, it was pretty much, clear cut. You need to progress within an institution, irrespective of what you want, subconsciously, and move up the ladder to a point where this is what makes you a successful person. Banking or none is irrespective. The corporate world was designed this way. We got so consumed into it to a point that we stopped thinking what is it that makes our life valuable to us? What is the footprint? What are we leaving here? How are we enjoying our present? We continue to think of either where I was and where I will be, and we never thought about where I am right now. And COVID comes in and it just takes us by surprise. Everything that we had, defined, designed, prepared ourselves for had just taken a total stop. And we were forced into that change. Not that we have chosen it, we're forced into it. And some of us were equipped to do that transformation. Others were just shattered, trying to cope with a new life. For me, it was a time where I had to take stock. I had to take stock of what is really important, and am I doing what I need to do to be happy, and to cater to the life that I would want to spend? What is the legacy that I want to leave behind? Is it a legacy of achievement as far as the corporate definition, or is it a legacy that I want to leave that is of importance to my children and my loved ones, and to myself for that? Am I at peace, or am I still chasing the elusive target that you will never be able to achieve? COVID had actually uncovered all of that.
So this time that we were forced to stay home and really reflect, did it change the definition of what success is all about for you?
Oh, of course. As for an example, if you take how I defined it before we went into this crisis, your day starts with going to the office in the best mindset that you think it is required. You go after the deals, you close those deals, you achieve the target that you have put for yourself. You go home, and you're just into that whole state of like absence of what is it that I actually want. I just go home and prepare for the next day to go to the office. The deal that you close, the progress that you make defines how successful you are. In the process, you forget about have you actually spent time with the people that you care about and you love? Have you enriched and learned something for yourself? Have you thought about what actually makes you happy rather than the material aspects of the image that you put up to be able to achieve the targets that are there? So of course, there was a lot of time for self-reflection. I mean, for people who stayed home and they were quarantined in a place where they were alone, I think that they had a lot of time to think about what is actually important.
Yeah, and that depending on how we handle it, that could be actually either fantastic and you'll get your set of breakthroughs, or that could be like totally depressing and you squirm and you basically
I think all of us went through all these emotions.
Absolutely.
Where we come from, we went into all those emotions throughout this period.
Absolutely. But it's this, like you were saying, this COVID came. It's a disaster and a crisis, but it came with a lot of gifts, and the gift of getting us to really think and reflect on what is important and who is important, and now whether the lessons that we have taken and we still are remember now. Will we take them once we go back to the rat race, once we things start becoming quicker again or not, that's, I think, completely an individual experience. I really do hope that we get those lessons going. But how do we spend a whole life with us being absent from it? I mean, you know, in the past few months, if I look at my life, I've been working from home. My needs are very simple. You know, I wear 2, 3 things. My whole cupboard is untouched. My whole shoes. If I look at the collection that I have, that you know, I've never realized that I've been on a journey to collect stuff. And I always thought that I am, you know, a minimalist and I don't collect and I don't hover and so on. But we end up in this life, you know, dressing, you know, collecting and doing things that we think that we are very conscious about, but we drive through and so on for our model of success. Looking now at what my priorities are and what is important in my life, it's actually scary because being in Dubai for 25 years, I have been lucky to meet a lot of people and call a lot of people my friends. But when you look at it, and in crisis, you kind of find out who your real friends are. You know, what has been your experience with people?
Well, let me break it into 3 realizations that I've you know had during that period, and I'll start with what I call a financial realization, and that is based on your cash flow, financial expenditure, and you know, plans for your financial future. Then you will have your social aspect. Who are the people that matter most in our life, and then you will have the third layer, which is your personal you know, realization of who am I and what do I need out of this life. So if I start with the last one, today, during COVID, and I believe post that crisis, and I don't know when it will be, one would realize that, you know, I understand myself much more today. I know what is it that I need to achieve. I know what makes me happy. And you'll be surprised that they are little. They are the things that we've always ignored. They are the little pieces that we usually, you know, used to focus on and never focused on, and took them for granted. Am I healthy? Am I happy? Is my body functioning well? Am I, you know, reading or learning the things that I want to learn? What interests me today, as far as topics are concerned? Previously, it's just, you know, you wake up and you look at the Financial Times and, you know, all that news that you need to know and prepare yourself for. And now you think about, am I prepared personally for the future, for the next move, for the next era? So that gives you a realization on how can I develop myself, and I found it to be you know, mind-shattering, at least from my experience. I realized that I'm interested personally in topics that I've never thought about, and you know, I had the time and the mental focus to actually go after it and learn it and understand it. If you move to the social level, anybody or any one of us, if you pick up your phone, you'll have thousands of contacts, and during the last 3 months, you might have realized that there are, you know, handful, maybe 20 of those people that you actually care to talk to, and either your family, your loved ones, your kids, if you have any, your partners, if you have any, and few of your friends who you want to share with them what has happened with you during that specific day, and that puts it into perspective. So are we in a place where we are collecting contacts and people that we thought they are of importance to us, or do we want to focus on the ones that actually matter? That takes us then to the financial piece, which is all of this that we were in, we needed to finance. So we needed to finance the thousands of contacts that we had, and the keeping up with the trend, keeping up with the activities and the social life that is there, being there for everything that is happening new in Dubai, because some people want to be seen or related or attached to all these beautiful things that are happening. In reality, they did not add that much to us when the tough times came about. We went back to our core group, core support system, and that is where I believe that we've learned a lot from COVID. Is that these are the group of people, these are the group of activities, and this is the knowledge that I want, and therefore this is where I'm going to focus my financial resources at the later stage. Now, the piece of financial resources depends from one person to another, from their, I'm not really talking about a specific size or amount or capability. It is relative to each one of us. And I'm sure that each one of us had or realized that no matter what is our cash flow cash in that we get, or the funding requirements that we have, I'm sure that everybody would have realized that there was a lot of waste there, big or small, relative, but there was a lot of waste, and that is where we are realizing that we can make a change.
Yeah, absolutely. And these realizations, like we were saying, did you start going back to the office, and how are all of these insights and realizations affecting your dealing with the team, affecting your approach to work or to life?
Well, I've been going to the office for the past 3 weeks. And in our institution, we had like a matrix of who can go to the office. We are operating at 30%. And then we have identified the people that should not go to the office. And we had like a category of 6 different layers. Once we applied it, we realized that almost 85% of our people fit into that category. Fortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, I don't fit in that category, so I have the freedom to go to the office. So when I had a conversation with my CEO, and it's like, how is going back to the office? And one of the things that I just came to my mind is that I was so tired from working, I needed to go to the office and to just relax a bit. What I realized is that because COVID caught us at a surprise, we went through a lot of emotions working from home. We did not plan, we're not used to it. We are not designed to work from home. And there are a lot of cultural baggage that we bring with us, either our upbringing or our surrounding, that you are as good as the time that you put in the office. A lot of people fell into that taboo. So a lot of us harbored that feeling of guilt. I'm staying at home, so I need to work a lot because I'm not going to the office, so I need to give a lot to my institution. Some of us had this resentment type feeling towards, there are people who are not in the office and they are still having a job, and nobody is really producing that much. The reality is, and we did the statistic on it, we found out that 54% of our manpower had actually been working 10 hours and more every day, including weekends.
Wow.
And then when you start asking why are people doing this, it's that they were caught by surprise. They couldn't really draw the line between their work and their life. And because they were at home, it all got jumbled in, and it got really, really mixed. And when I started going back to the office, I realized that now I can control my day. And for people who are still in the office, working out of home, I keep on telling them, put the schedule in your home for work as if you are in the office, and just switch off at the time when it is your life. So you have to organize your time. The other thing that this whole 3 months experience was extremely humbling, in a way that you thought that people are supposed to be working for you and for the in the office and for the institution all the time, and you realize that once you have stayed at home, and the amount of pressure that has been placed on you is phenomenal, that you start understanding how other people feel, how other people are, what other people are going through. Now, people with children working at home, and parents who are taking care, firsthand caretakers of their children, had to just juggle between all of this at the same time. And once you see it, you will start becoming more appreciative, patient, and understand that if you had people work on their own time, the only thing that they needed is a screen and a connectivity to the internet, and their productivity has stayed at the same level. Therefore, when you come back, you give more freedom to your team. I feel today that my team has all the freedom that they want or they need, and they can operate at the time they see fit, that will accommodate their lifestyle, as long as we are all delivering the results that we want. So the taboo of delivering results in a certain shape is out of the window today.
Yeah. So because, organizations, and we do a lot of work on, and, the past, 2019, 2018, all the organizations were, we were obsessed with efficiency, productivity, making sure that we have lean resources, making sure that we do it right. And I guess the model of productivity with this, that people were thinking about, and how to measure productivity or efficiency is completely changed now with this flexible work. And I'm pretty certain that this kind of flexible work, whether it is remote, whether it's hybrid, whether it's teams, is gonna stay with us. But that takes, we're talking about 3 months. It's not a long time, but we're talking about a huge change of mindset and cultural, years of building of how we would like to see people in the office, how we look at people, how we measure performance. You think it's going to be fast? This shock, the mindset is going to be changed as well, as fast for organizations?
I don't think that we will ever go back to what we used to do before. And the faster we recognize this, the better our life will be. I think that while the 3 months are really, short as a time, but we're still not out of it. We are still in this thing, and it's gonna take longer than what we would have loved for it to be. So yes, I think that we will not go back to what we used to do. Let me give you an example, Salma. We were so fixated on efficiency to a point that if you look at the manufacturing industry, trading, we moved into just-in-time type of stock, let's say, that we don't need to build it here. There is more efficient ways to do it. Example, China. And as long as they can deliver it to me at this time and the logistical setup is there, it is more efficient for me to send it out to these areas and manage manage my operation in a way that efficiently is much better. Now, with a crisis like Corona, we suddenly found ourselves not only getting things delayed, but we're not getting things. We're not getting what we wanted. And all the jobs and all the production capacities that we had let go because of the efficiency drive, now is the one that would have helped us survive. Certain economies survive much better than others, but this model of total efficiency based on that definition, I don't know if it's the right model. I don't know if it's the one that we should continue to look at. And then we should question, I think, we should question whether that efficiency is of value to us. I don't know. Why am I really in a hurry to do everything and to do it at a specific speed and a specific time? And how does it really change my life? Now, one would argue that this is the way of evolution. This is how we're going to evolve. Maybe that's a debate that we would have. But then let's be very cognizant of that fact, is that we need to define efficiency that is pertaining to us and that will actually protect us from a crisis. And we will have more crises to come. Maybe not pandemic or maybe another one. I'm not sure, but we will have a crisis and we need to be better prepared than what we were at this time.
Yeah. So you see that there's going to be the global, the outsourcing. You talked about a little bit the outsourcing model in terms of efficiency. But so we produce things in China. Logistically, they come to Dubai. They get repackaged, redistributed somewhere else, and so on. Do you think that we're going to be moving, or the world's going to be moving to a more balanced approach of looking a little bit more local?
I'm not sure if the world will move to that, but I believe that the question is on the table and people are thinking about it.
Yeah.
And now we will have a much better consideration for it. Even if we decide to go back to that model, I'm sure that we will have to put in safety nets that will allow us to overcome a next crisis.
Yeah. So so March, we had, if we're going to look at a curve, and we were talking about this a bit earlier, at the curve of fear versus cases. Our curve of fear was this big, while the cases were building up still. Today, we're at the highest week of global cases. And if we look at it, the curve is huge and our fear has shrunk, partly because, we're resilient people and we're adapting, partly because life has to go on. And because of the economy has been hit so bad and people really need to get the momentum going and so on. So with us restarting life and trying to reboot the economies and our work and so on, what do you see in the near horizon? I mean, people are talking about a couple of years of difficulty, but how can we prepare ourselves to go on? Because everybody's talking about, and everybody bought into, we're all responsible for each other's keeping each other safe by taking precautions. I think equally we're all responsible to do our part to be productive, to make sure that the economy doesn't come to a complete halt, to keep a little bit of momentum going. How can we prepare ourselves for the future? How can we better be prepared, even for people who are losing their jobs? You know, how can we invest to make sure that whatever is this new normal, we're ready for it?
If I take your question and I go back, at the initial part of it, where you were talking about the fear factor, or why the cases were less and our fear was higher. With this pandemic, it's exponential. Every day you're going to have a bigger number. So it's just, will continue to increase till we find a cure or a way to stop it, or it dies on its own, which I don't know if that will happen. However, it's the more we know about something that will reduce our our fear. It's the unknown that we had at the beginning, and because we were used to a certain life and a certain way of doing things, and the disruption was severe. And that's why we were highly scared. I quarantined myself away from my children for 14 days because I was worried that I might either bring to them something that they could not withstand, or just try to safeguard them. Today, I take the precautions. I see them. We do the family activities together. However, if you look at what will be the business model that we will go after, will the economy survive? It depends how you define it. If all of us think that we're going to go back to what we used to have, we will be chasing mirage all throughout. What we need to do is take a stock of what has happened and where do we want to move? What are the parts of the economy that are doing or will prosper, and what are the parts of the economy that will disappear? That is the cycle of evolution. If you, I'll give you an example. 100 years ago, when the automation came into the on the industrial automation came into being, a lot of the factory workers thought that life will end because automation is taking away a lot of jobs. It took 7 years for the textile industry to overcome it in the early 1900s. However, when we look at it right now, it's the best thing that has happened to that industry because it allowed it to evolve. And we, the faster we can adapt, the faster that we can adapt to the change and find a proper place for our skills that will allow us to move into the future, the better it will be for us. If we continue to stick to the old model, and in certain industries, I believe they will disappear. I'm talking on in a personal capacity here, and I'm not representing any institution. So if you think about how you today spend and how you consume, and see the difference in your consumption pattern, you should be able to tell which are the industries that will suffer and cease to exist maybe in the future. And you will be also seeing which are the ones that will prosper. Not to pinpoint any certain companies or industries. The way that you do things today has transformed. And if we pour all our resources or shift our resources into that new trend, we will come out of it. There will be suffering, I'm sure, but we will come out of it in the long run in a better, much better place than what we were before. If you believe in the concept of evolution, that's a natural selection type of approach. This is a pandemic that is there to reset the clock and allow us to move forward. Some of us are going to suffer, and there is nothing that we can do about it. There is nothing that we can do to change it. It's how we deal with this that will allow us to overcome it. Some people are losing, a lot of people are losing their jobs. A lot of people are being cut out of this model. They have their own plans that are pinned around this monthly cash flow or annual yearly cash flow, and they don't know what to do without it. And that's a time where we have to think how we're going to replace it. What are my skills? What are my personal skills that I was not aware of that I can harness or develop that will allow me to become effective in the future?
Absolutely.
Life will not end. It will not end. People might see it that it will end for some.
Yeah.
In totality, it will move on and it will prosper. It is our choice to decide whether we want to be the prospering ones. And that's the positivity that we always have to have. We need to look positively into the future. I have a fear factor. I always have it. Sama is there and she can, she can endorse that piece. I always have a fear factor. What will happen to me? What will happen to my family if I don't have this job? Well, our life will change, but still, our life will continue, and we will find something else. The faster we look for it, the better we will be.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think, as a human race, we've gone through a lot of crises and a lot of pandemics over the years, and we are definitely resilient. And like you said, it's a matter of we're all going through this crisis. The winners, if I'm going to call them the winners are the people who are able to look at this and see the opportunities, have the right mindset, and like you said, we need to retool, and we always talked about pivoting our businesses and so on. I guess we need to pivot and change ourselves to make sure that we are in tune with what we need to create. But I think I'm a big believer in the collective goods. And I think, this will take us forward for sure. But there's an urgency to, I think part of winning is how quickly can you absorb what's going on, adapt yourself, and then adopt and steer away. And because we live in a competitive world, whether we like it or not, so we need to move fast. And we need to shorten the curve of how quickly we can do it.
Salma, disruption has always been there. It was at a maybe slower pace, or it was under the radar for some people, but disruption has been the way of life for so many industries. And that is why you get to see the likes of Uber and Careem, the likes of Amazon and Souk, the likes of Noon and all that stuff, and that is disrupting an industry that we took for granted. COVID and the pandemic has actually shrunk this whole thing into a shorter period of time, where we are we are looking at all these disruptions at the same time. And it's coming up into the screen and we're seeing it. While it didn't mean that it wasn't happening. It was always happening. We chose not to see it. And now we have to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is very, very interesting. I can't believe that, it's almost 7. I'd like to open it up for Q&A. Time flies, Mohammad, with you. We have, please, whoever has questions, we'd love your engagement and your points of views. And I'm going to start it with a question on the feed here from Dana, She's saying the COVID-19 pandemic could be the most serious challenge to financial institutions in nearly a century. Retail banks are trying to manage revenue and customer expectations despite near zero interest rates and growing pressure on consumers. What would be the new trends we shall see coming up in terms of product, services? What do you see taking place both globally and right here in the region?
Okay, that's thank you, Dana, for this. This is a very specific question. I totally agree with you. The financial sector and industry is under immense pressure today, as far as disruption is concerned. Now, if you look at it, how are we delivering our products, and what type of products are we giving to the market? How important that product is. And especially for the newer generation that are coming in. Now, if I take the crisis element from a financial institution point of view, the crisis has differently than the crisis that we had in 2008, which was a pure financial crisis. That was driven at that time by the subprime lending, and it impacted the liquidity and the credit risk. Today, it's an economic crisis. While the banks or the financial institutions are a bit far away from the impact, we are a second-hand, impacted by the crisis that's happening. We are, as banks, we are lenders to an economy in all their different economic cycles. What happened is that economic cycle stopped. So, what it requires is that you either freak out as institutions, which is understandable, and start looking at how am I going to be really solvent as a financial institution, getting my loans repaid and my positions covered, or we have to look at an economy that has taken, maybe today it's taken a stop, and it's become slower going forward till it picks up. So financial institutions today need to adapt themselves to the pace of this market. And we need to spread ourselves across this time horizon. What was supposed to be paid back to us in 3 months will require 2 years. We will have to stretch it for 2 years. New activity is not happening as such, and therefore we need to focus all our efforts and capital and resources to make sure that we shore up these industries. But the other question that the financial institutions are facing, and that's a very hard question for some industries, that is this industry going to survive, or is it part of the past? If it's part of the past, the sensible thing to do is to actually sit down and cut your losses, both sides, and decide on an amicable way of exiting this. If it's an industry that's going to evolve and it's going to actually rebound, this is where you pour all your resources and funding. So it's still a question of behavior. Central banks in our region have come in and funded and provided a lot of liquidity, cheap liquidity funding to the institution to be able to pass it on to the companies and to the industries that are really suffering a lot. However, if I think about what a bank will be in 5 years, I'm certain today that it is not what you see in the streets and not the bank that you deal with. I'm certain that a lot of our products will have to be transformed. A lot of the channels that we deliver it to our customers will have to be transformed. We, as if I'm going to talk about Mashreq, we've realized this long time, longer than what a lot of people anticipate, and we shifted a lot of our resources into the digital space. We have something called Mashriq Neo. I don't know if anyone is aware of it. It is our digital branch. It's a branch that doesn't exist physically. However, we realize that the newer generation does not really care about the physical branch, do not really want to come and see us, and they'd rather use a bank that sits at their fingertips and do the things that they want rather than the things that the bank wants them to do. This is our biggest transformation, and today it is our most successful initiative. And it happened that during this pandemic, it is the platform that is growing the fastest. Do I believe that banks will continue to deliver the same products in isolation? Are we going to be all competing and giving different products to the market? Come on, we all give a very simple product. We package it maybe differently, we label it differently, but it's the same product. It's how we deliver it today that allows us to gain market share or to be able to beat the competition in that sphere. Now, is the basic product that the banks give enough for you? I don't think it's enough. I don't think on its own it's of value to you. It's how it impacts your life is what you care about. It's the ease. It's how it just dovetails into all the different activities that you do. It adds value to your life. It's not a standalone anymore. So the concept of marketplace is something that we all as bankers need to reconsider and just drop that whole camouflage of, I'm a banker and this is an old industry and this is how we do it. No more. We're going to do it how the market wants it to be done. And that's where the transformation will happen.
Absolutely. Very, very, very interesting. Great. I'm going to unmute everyone, I guess.
Let's hear people's experiences. I'm really fascinated, really interested to hear how people coped with this.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Mohammad. This is Shuja. Definitely nice to meet you. Definitely very interesting about consumerism and it changing over time. But so far, the data seems to be from China and other places that have opened up without the second wave, that people were cooped up so much inside that certainly at the middle class and upper middle class, retail did pop up for a short while. It could have been the lag effect of the 3 months where they were not spending anything, but it seems that it's very related, or even in the US, you're seeing that people are now not fearing the virus and therefore they're coming out. They want business to get back to normal, although the death rates are still continuing to be at best flat, if not increasing. So yeah, we all hope that I think that over-consumerism has reduced, but so far it doesn't seem like it's been, we're not seeing it being completely flattened out.
Thanks, Shuja. I agree with you that there was a rebound, a temporary one, which has happened once we decided to break that whole fear factor and we challenge the situation and say, no, we're going to go out and we're going to, resume our life. Now, some data around the retail consumer behavior. While we monitor a lot of the activities of retail footfall and footfall to purchase, and we found out that those numbers after the opening up, the footfall has all, suddenly just jumped into the retail space, but the conversion of footfall into purchase did not really pick up. It did not really touch the levels that even anticipated in a downturn. So it was a reaction of people that I want to go out. I'm challenging the situation. You hear it in so many different ways. I'm bigger than the virus. Nothing's going to happen to me. This is my life. I'm going to take control over it. However, people are far more conscious today on how they spend. I'm not saying that spending will stop. Spending will continue to be there. However, spending will be focused in certain areas. So you'll see certain retail, if you go to retail brands or retail products or consumable items, those areas will pick up much more than before COVID, and they will be balanced by areas that will totally disappear. If you go out today if you try to check out today the behavior of dining out. Initially, we saw people trying to really book the places to go out because they are frustrated from, staying at home, and they wanted a glimpse of the previous life that they had. However, all these restaurants could not operate beyond 30, 40%. Some were breaking the rules, I'm sure, but that is the level, the social distancing that needed to be there. So if you look at their model doesn't make sense anymore. And those outlets will slowly disappear because their model was built on a much higher consumption in a behavior that was all about being out there and overspending. And Dubai is a big example of a lot of those places where it is designed for overspending. And I think that we'll have to give it more time. Today, I don't believe that anyone will be able to say what's going to happen. We're all guessing here, but we need to wait and see those, those trends. How do they progress into the future? And the more data points that we will have, we'll be able to forecast. But I don't believe that the spending will be in the same way. It will be more conscious spending than before.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially with that data point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. That's definite. The focus is different. Not only the budgets are different, but the focus on what we spend on is different. I think because, as you said, priorities have changed. Any more questions before we actually wrap up? And I apologize. We were so taken by the conversation with Mohammad that we steamed through to just close to 7. We have space for one more question or comment if anybody would like to do it, because I promised everyone to close at 7. It's already.
I'm happy to stay here for longer.
Okay, if people would like that, it's fine.
I have another question, Mohammad, regarding the supply chain.
Please.
Are you seeing, from a bank's perspective, and not necessarily Mashreq, but generally, we are hearing that there needs to be supply chain closer to the economy, not necessarily within country, but certainly diversifying out of China. I've been approached by few small, medium businesses that want to set up manufacturing, for example, of small goods in places like Ras Al Khaimah. But it sounds like there's still a struggle for those small businesses to get loans. Is there a general noise that you've heard from the central bank or general trends? Is Mashreq or other banks seeing the same thing, that people see the opportunity, they want to set up, and it's typically SME and MME that I've seen that in?
Spot on, Shuja. This is the time I believe that companies who are ready to set up and have the idea to bring it to the market, this is the right time for it. However, we need to understand that banks today, we are still in the midst of this crisis. We need to also understand that there is a liquidity issue. And the liquidity issue is like twofold. One is that whatever banks have lent into the market that was supposed to be repaid and then lent back again is not happening at the speed that we wanted. And therefore, most of those banks are extending the tenor. So the circulation of these funds are not happening into the financial system. Second is the deterioration today of the credit, the credit of all of those institutions. So you see today that a lot of these companies are struggling, and banks, especially with Basel III and the IFRS 9 implications into our balance sheets and the capital adequacy that is required and the staging of provisions, it is very important now for banks to shore up their position. And what I know for sure is that every bank today is looking closely to their existing customer set and say, if there are any resources that are available for me to bring in, I want to funnel it to my existing customers first. I need to shore them up before I start looking at the acquisition. So we noticed amongst all the banks that the what do you call it, CEO, the onboarding activity has come down so much to a point that it is now at hold for, do I want to acquire a new to bank type of client from a lending point of view? And this has come to a total stop at one point in time. Mm-hmm. So the SMEs and the MMEs are usually or should always be the core of any economy. They should always be the ones that make up the success of this economy. We are in this region skewed towards the larger set, the government owned type of businesses that we need to shore up, and that doesn't leave a lot of space for the SMEs and MSMEs.
Yes, unfortunately, it's true, and I think we may see a lot of the SMEs and MMEs, a lot of them, a lot of the ones that actually are. Their whole business is tied to big corporates and so on. We might pretty much see them disappear if they don't reinvent themselves and diversify pretty quickly.
But I believe also that there is a big opportunity for banks to look at, and that is the supply chain financing in a more structured way. This market is totally fragmented when it comes to financing the supply chain. It is always based on financing companies on a standalone basis, on general basis, without tying it up to the whole cash flow and sources of repayment. So there is, I believe, an opportunity, and we are. Personally, we're looking at ideas using certain technologies, be it the blockchain, facilitation, into tying up the bigger companies all the way down into their supply chain to the smallest possible. And if you tie it all up, you'll be able to finance the smaller one under the larger company without really taking undue, unwarranted risks. But it requires a will and a vision to actually progress there. But I believe there is an opportunity.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you. Well, 2 more questions on the feed. So Dina joins us from Amman, and she's saying that banks will most probably turn into fintechs.
Yeah, well, that's a very good very good point. Let me share some thoughts around it. Fintechs and banks were adversaries. I don't think that we liked each other. I don't think that we wanted each other to exist. One of us wanted to take the other. Till with the whole disruption that is happening, we have today a threat that is much larger than the fintech, which are the big data companies. All right. So I believe that today banks and fintechs are best positioned to work together, to evolve together and protect that sphere. Otherwise, all of us will be taken out by the big data companies. And I see more collaboration, Dana, between banks and fintechs, and none of us will replace the other. The fintechs have the agility, the innovation, the very daring, and banks have the resilience, the balance sheet, the governance, and the depth and spread within the economy, that if we work together, we will be able to preserve that industry. So I believe that they're not going to be replaced. There will be an amalgamation of both into a new breed.
And that'd be a huge opportunity for evolution of this whole industry, I think.
And it's happening. It's happening today.
Yeah, fantastic. Another question on the feed, Mohammed. Hey, you agreed to stay a bit longer, so we're gonna hold you to that. So it's from Marwan saying, are financial institutions taking any step for transforming into digital currency? What do you see, with all of the, the talk that we are hearing, and the news about the dollar versus the Chinese currency, digital gold, Bitcoin. Where are we going with digital currency? Do you see that? Do you see a concerted effort being taken towards converting to that? Is that part of our future?
Crypto and digital currency is closer to reality within banks than it was before. There is no. I don't believe that there is any clear direction of how it will emerge, but I believe that there will be a certain consolidation in one shape or another that we are all working on. And don't forget that the only topic that has always been the issue with the digital currency and the cryptocurrency was the governance element and the compliance element. Till we cross this bridge, and I don't think that we will really progress on that. However, we are now more collaborating than before. There are a lot of technologies that are getting a really bad rap, and we're ignoring the power of these technologies, and we're looking at it from a negative point of view that is not allowing us to use it for our advantage. I believe that there will be more time and investment spent into that bridge in the coming future than it had happened before. But is it, Marwan, happening soon? I'm not sure about it. I think that it's more positive than before.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Where are, and people ask this question very frequently, where do we invest? Where should we put our money these days? I mean, other than technology and, pardon?
Tell me yourself. Put your money in what you believe in, and try to or learn how to evolve and put that money there. And if we're talking about which are the areas to the industries to buy stocks in, or to support a startup, or whatever, always think about, will it last in the future? Does it really cater to the evolution that we are having? The first thing that people will always look at is, I would like to do, to invest in digitization, anything that, or any personally, I think of augmentation, and bionics and all, but that's my personal belief. However, I think that every one of us needs to ask that question: how do I see the future? Where do I think that this future is going? What resonates for me as a human being? And I need to invest in that part. But first of all, invest in myself, learning more and unlearning a lot of the things that we've had in the past.
Fantastic. I mean, that's awesome. And I think the best investment all of us can make is investing in ourselves, because you can't go wrong there. And continuing to learn, and continuing to get new tools and so on. So with that, I'd like to thank you, Mohammad, for a very, very insightful webinar. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks to all our participants. We thank you. It's been very valuable.
You are most welcome, and thanks for having me here. And I look forward to more interactions on your platform.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is one of many, inshallah. Thank you so much, and thanks for everybody who joined us from the UAE, from Canada, from Amman, and from Italy. That's who I can see basically, and from wherever you are joining. Really appreciate your interactions, and stay tuned for our next webinar. Thank you, Mohammad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.